Central to this conference is a number of policy discussions which will be threshed out by delegates. Also tonight, the delegates are expected to nominate their preferred candidates for the ANC's top 6 officials. The Electoral Commission will then reveal who has accepted nomination. Delegates will also be able to nominate candidates from the floor. To discuss this further, we're now joined by analyst John Ngcebetsha. Welcome to my ANC Talk, John.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what is going to be happening in this conference. I know a lot of emphasis and spotlight has been on the presidential race, but exactly what can we expect out of this conference?
Evidently, we had the policy conference a few months ago. One of the critical issues that arose there was the whole debate on the nationalization policy. A lot has been spoken of, emanating also from the Political conference regarding the developmental state. And a number of people are beginning to ask, what does this really mean in real terms? There's the new, the second phase of the transition, which begins to talk on the emphasis in terms of escalating the rate at which service delivery comes through, transformation of the economy, and the emancipation of the previously disadvantaged in real terms. These are issues to a large extent that did not get focused attention at the beginning of the CODESA leading to the democracy, because I think most of the issues that were at play at the time was how do you get into a stable transition from an apartheid era state into a democratic state. So I think a lot is looked at in terms of that.
And why should an ordinary South African care about these discussions that are taking place in this conference?
It's absolutely vital for all South Africans to take note of what happens. The ANC is the ruling party, and in terms of the governance structure and the electoral system of the country, whoever gets elected into the ANC, whatever decisions are taken in the ANC are likely to be, if not all of them, mostly government policy. If we're talking about whether or not we've got affirmative action, that begins at the level of the ANC beginning to do the policies that will influence government employees to go and implement those. So even in terms of affirmative action, you know the tensions within the ANC, the broad church it is, in terms of the Youth League in particular having pushed very hard for nationalization of mines. On the other side, you've got a number of people, including business, who have said that, hang on, whilst we went to have a real transformation, is this the best format to follow? So those are the contestations that one is likely to see emerge, and the debate. We've got the proposals from the policy conference. We'll see if they're endorsed as is or with modification.
Okay, let's now move our attention to the elections that are going to be happening tomorrow. A lot of observers saying it's not as tense as Polokwane was. What is your assessment?
Look, one of the things that has emerged through this particular conference, quite opposed to Polokwane, is that you've seen a far more wider range of contests, beginning to shift a little bit away from the rigid slate approach that you saw with Jacob Zuma and the team that he got elected in, and the Thabo Mbeki and the one that contested the last one. Now you see that in the very different slate, you will find that 2 or 3 deputy presidents are being contested. The same goes in terms of the Treasurer General and other positions in the top 6. Whereas in the presidency, where a lot of attention has been focused, you evidently see one battle between the current deputy president, Kgalema Motlanthe, and the current president, Mr. Jacob Zuma. So it's quite going to be interesting. Low-key it may be, it depends, because I think the critical difference between last time and now is that, as opposed to last time where you had 4 versus 5 provinces between the last contestants, now you've got the current president leading with 6 provinces and 3. Although it may be argued that there's still some contestations in regarding the outcome of the various provincial general councils that nominated, but the fact of the matter, as we speak, that's what we have.
And let's talk about also the campaigns that we saw building up to this. Zuma's campaign was very firm, it was focused, and he looks like he is set to retain power. Kgalema only accepted nomination a few days ago. What can we read out of this?
We get a sense that Mr. Khalumo Mutlande says he wants to play by the book. He's against the slate, posturing himself as the custodian of ANC tradition and practice. Whether that gets him the votes or makes his campaign succeed is a different matter. On the other side, we've got Mr. Jacob Zuma, who has not given anyone any indication why he's not going to stand. For all intents and purposes, his contest is open, and his campaign has been focused in that regard. We also take note of the fact that there's a number of recent developments, that the Northwest is contesting on the people that should come here. The same could be said about the Free State in respect of the Concord decision yesterday, what effect that has. We know that the NEC decided only to discard and disband, in fact, the Provincial Executive Committee, but allow the delegates in. Where I suspect we're going to have a lot of contest in the first phase of this is evidently going to be on credentials, because at the center of this, who is entitled to attend and therefore who's entitled to vote. And once that issue is resolved, then it's easier to move on. You could take it for granted, I guess, that if there's no change in terms of the credentials report as we understand it to be coming through, is likely to be no real contest in terms of the outcome. But should, for any reason, there be a change in terms of the candidates list that comes through as a result of whatever development, then who knows, maybe there could be a different contest and a different outcome.
But would you say that this conference has been the first really to have so many legal battles playing out in the background?
We know that in Bulugwane, Vodani Majola attempted to stop conference, but I think that was sorted out even before the conference began. So everybody, as we go to conference, knew as conference commenced that all issues are sorted. What is the different complication here is that we have got a Concord who made a decision in respect of the Free State. They say they'll give the detailed judgment only on Tuesday. If you look at the conference agenda,
late, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at the conference agenda, tonight they expect to do nominations. Yes, voting will occur presumably on Tuesday morning. It remains to be seen whether that will not be too late.
The Secretary General, Gwede Mantashe, is also on record saying, you take us to court, consider yourself expelled from the ANC. What can we make of that? I
don't know if that is more a political statement than it could be a legally binding one. As you know, that the very ANC is the one that led the negotiation to establish a democratic constitutional dispensation which guarantees people right to access to courts on any matter that is aggrieved. If you go to court and get success, there's very little that the ANC itself can do about the outcome of that. That's why we expected
But can't they expel you?
The expulsion, if it comes as a result of protection of your civil rights, it will be very difficult to justify, because a court of law in the end is able to confirm your status. If we look, I don't think the ANC would have invited anyone of their members to go to the Concord in respect of the Free State matter. But they did. And what did the ANC did? They endorsed the Constitutional Court's decision. So it tells you that there may be a political view that we do not want to encourage this. And I think in real terms, no one wants to encourage that issues of family, as you would call it, are resolved elsewhere. But once one has done so, and if it's legally binding, there's very little that one can do except to abide.
Thank you so much for joining us in the studio, and I would really appreciate your input. We will be inviting you again to just give us more insight in what's going on behind the scenes.
You're most welcome.
Okay, and that was our analyst John Ngcebetsha talking to us. Tomorrow we'll be shining the spotlight on the electoral process. We'll be unpacking it, and we will have more analysts in the studio joining us, and a representative from the Electoral Commission. That's where we ended. From me, Nino Zama, and the rest of the crew, thank you for watching.